Hello, I'm Bill Monroe, and welcome to episode 118 of 2-Minute Talk Tips, the podcast that opens with a practical public speaking tip in the first 2 minutes before getting into a deeper discussion about public speaking. Today's tip comes to us from special guest Logan Renā.
Create your stories by going back to look at your old Facebook posts, your old Instagram posts, or even go to your parents' house and look at your childhood book of all the pictures that you had. And ask yourself, how did I feel at the age of 6? How did I feel at 12? How did I feel at 14, 16? And start just creating stories that you can use on stage, because it's the stories that's going to relate to people. I took an entire day and I went through all my photos and I was like, this girl right here was so insecure, but you couldn't tell by this picture. Right here, I really wanted a relationship with my dad and I didn't understand why we weren't close. This is the moment that I realized that my mother was going to leave here and how I felt in that moment. So all of those stories make for a great story on stage. So take some time, don't go out to the park or, go to the movies. Take some time, sit down, ask yourself how you felt on those pictures and accumulate stories. So what I did was I saved all of them to Evernote. So I just go back and I pick a story and I write out, whatever I'm going to talk about, but I always pick a story.
Stick around. And after the break, we'll hear more from Logan Renā. Welcome back. Logan Renā is just overflowing with energy, enthusiasm, and self-discipline. Her approach to life is about not asking for permission, but it's not in a reckless manner. In fact, it's highly disciplined, because once you no longer ask for permission, then you become responsible for your actions at a much deeper level. Logan Renā is the Chief Creative Director of the Logan Design Project Affirmation clothing company and author of the #1 new released book, Never Ask for Permission Again. Her heart work is taking women on a journey of self-love, self-awareness, and self-care through speaking engagements, the Logan Rena Show on YouTube, and through the SoulKation podcast. Now, let's meet Logan. So Logan, thank you so much for joining us here on 2-Minute Talk Tips this week.
Of course. I'm so excited to be here.
You've got such a vibrant website. You've got lots of really exciting projects you're involved in. But I really want to start off by sort of going back to the beginning. And what was your earliest memory of speaking to an audience?
So before I even touched a real stage, I was always on a stage in the mirror. I love performing in my mom's bathroom in front of the mirror, whether it's singing or pretending to be, the greatest dancer of all time. But I started in the mirror. So from there, I went to a Christian elementary school, and we always had to quote different Bible verses or, sing songs. So for some reason, I was always chosen as that person, and I just felt at home. I felt very comfortable. I was always nervous, but there was something about just being on stage and seeing people smile and seeing their reaction and saying, like, I felt so warm around you. I was like, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my entire life, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where I started.
That's some really foundational stuff. I mean, as it is now, when we coach speakers, I often, will tell people, go ahead and practice in the mirror so you can see yourself while you're speaking. And that scares the heck out of a lot of folks. But, you started off doing that. And, that's one of those things where you're already starting to prep, to see what results you're getting and to see what you're doing. And that's an awesome foundation to have.
Definitely. I agree.
The other thing you said there that I think is really key is you mentioned being nervous, but comfortable. I think a lot of times, that's nervousness or anxiety. It's just one side of excitement at what's about to happen.
Definitely. A new experience.
Yeah. So it's something you've always enjoyed. And today, before you get on a stage, what are you doing in that 5 minutes before you get on stage?
So there's a hack first to the nerves, and then I'll tell you about before being on stage. So here's the hack. Take a deep breath and then remind yourself of who you are. Because you really have to affirm yourself before going out and projecting confidence and projecting, yourself as the elite or the guru of what you're about to talk about. And people feel that. So you have to set your soul up to a place where it decides that you are great enough to be there. It's like a reminder that I've been chosen to be here. So I'm about to crush it. I'm about to kill it. And practice in the car. No music the day before, no podcast, no YouTube videos. I know we're entrepreneurs, so we're always trying to basically gas ourselves up, but you want to recognize your own voice before you go on stage. So don't listen to anybody else. Practice your speech over and over again, especially in the car on the way there. And of course, practice at home. But before I get on stage, I go over my main point. What do I want them to walk away with? What do I want them to feel? When they see me in the hallway, that's the first thing that they say. And they say, because it relates to me in this way. So what is it that you really want to convey to your audience right out of the gate? Make sure you go over that same point over and over in your mind and remind yourself that you are great enough and that you belong to be there.
I think that is so important, that whole focus on getting to that core message, knowing what you want to accomplish. I think a lot of speakers, we see them, they get up there, and then at the end of it, we may have had a great experience, or maybe we didn't enjoy it, maybe we didn't think they did a good job, but we don't know what we're supposed to do now.
Definitely.
And that's when a speaker has really sort of missed the mark, is when you walk out of there not knowing why you listened to that.
Yeah. It's like, what was she talking about?
Exactly. But centering on that message, centering on that core, that is so key to the reason that everybody is there.
Yes.
So how do you help other folks and other speakers deal with their nerves? I mean, that's what works for you. Is do you coach other folks to do the same thing, or are there other techniques you use to help people deal with their nerves?
I would say come up with your memory system, how you memorize something. There are times where I'm able to have my notes somewhere, but there has been times where there's nothing to place anything on. I know Greg Reed said to place your notes on like a little note card and place it on the floor in front of you. So, the audience won't see it, and make like your key points. But of course, you want to have your speech already memorized as much as possible. And that's where it comes: practice in the car, practice at home, record yourself doing the speech, but definitely have your main point, your key point memorized, and hone in on that. This is really important. Sometimes as speakers, we're afraid to make the same point, but you think people heard you, but they didn't hear you. Say it again and say it one more time, just to hone in on that particular message. So they know you as that person,
Right. You want them to, after your talk, be able to tweet what the talk was about and get it right.
Definitely.
It's one of those things where they say that people remember only 15% of what they hear. As a speaker, It becomes your job to make sure you decide what that 15% is going to be.
That's good.
It's interesting. You talk about putting note cards on the floor. And I remember I was doing a training video for a Rocky Mountain retailer at their location, and said last minute they wouldn't let us use our slides. So I ended up just writing out all these things and just putting them on the floor just out of camera range, so you can just glance down. And sometimes you don't even need to actually look at that stuff. Just knowing it's nearby gives you that extra support you need.
Yes, definitely. Because there has been time where, like, what was my point? And one girl in the audience, she was like, "You were talking about self-love." Thank you. The audience will have your back.
That's awesome. And and that tells you a couple things. It tells you, your audience wants you to succeed, because your audience is usually, your audience is not looking for a speaker to fail. They want you to be successful, and it shows they were paying attention. That's awesome.
Yeah. And they don't know that you messed up. That's the key thing. You're the only one that know you missed 4 lines of what you memorized. They don't even know that. So the pressure that we put on ourselves as speakers is like, take a step back. I'm chosen to be here. I belong here. I just need to get through it in confidence and knowing that everything is going to work out.
So you've been obviously you've been doing a lot of speaking. You've been focusing on confidence here. You talk a lot about that, and your book is called "Never Ask for Permission Again." So, I mean, what do you mean by that?
So, as children, we had to ask our parents, can I go to the party? Can I spend the night at my friend's house? When we were in school, we had to ask the teacher, can I go to the restroom or walk in the hallway without you walking with me? So we got in the habit of always asking for permission. So as adults, we do the same thing. Do you think I should start the business? Do you think I should leave my job? Do you think I should wear this dress? Do you think, I should plan this event? And we're always asking, and then we're always explaining ourselves. We don't feel like, we're confident enough to make a decision. So the book is about taking a step back and saying, and filling in the blank, you grant yourself permission to do the following. I grant myself permission to show up, being myself, being afraid, being yourself, being afraid, or trusting yourself. You have permission to consistently be happy. You have permission to speak up for yourself in confidence. You have permission to say no and not have to explain why you said no. A lot of times we're like, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I really wish that I could come. I have to take the kids here. I need to drop off this at the dry. We just go into all this explaining when it's simple. I apologize. I cannot make it. I hope to see you next time. You have permission to take time to heal. Let's say you just went through a breakup or you lost somebody. You have permission to take time off and to get yourself together. And you have permission to cry if you need to. Sometimes we don't know that it's okay to cry. You have permission to be afraid and go after your dreams, even if you don't know how it's going to turn out. But you have permission to go after them in full force. So in the book, I just go through a lot of strategies and a lot of resources on why you think you have to ask for permission and how to get out of that mindset.
So how would you say that approach applies to somebody who may have to do some public speaking as part of their job, maybe presenting at internal company sales meetings or events their organization is putting on, or maybe in a social group, or maybe even in their church, where they're not somebody who's going to go ahead and necessarily do the whole keynote tour, but has to be a more effective speaker in their job. How does the idea of not asking for permission, how do they apply that?
Well, remembering that one, you are already a part of that environment. There are already people there rooting for you. So that's key. 9 times out of 10, your coworkers already have respect for you, or your church members have respect for you. So it's about organizing your thoughts, organizing your notes, and keeping it simple. You don't have to be up there 90 minutes trying to get people to, change their lives. It's not your job to change their lives. It's your job to give them one thing that they can apply to their life today that will shift how they see themselves. So don't put so much pressure on trying to be perfect, especially in front of people that you already know. It's about giving them a new idea for that.
You don't have to ask permission to not be perfect.
Yeah, definitely. That's key. Thanks, Bill. That's so key.
So how did you come to write the book? I mean, what was that process like?
So I lost my mother to stage 4 breast cancer. And I just decided to pour out how I was feeling on paper. So basically, I placed my heart on paper. And it took me 4 years to write the book. It does not take 4 years to write a book. It took me that long because I was basically healing myself. I had moved to another state without friends, without family. I had just got out of a situationship. And on top of that, I lost my mom. So really, it was me reminding myself of how special I was and how unique I was. And I knew that there were other people around me that were going through major transitions too. So I was like, how can I put this in a book? It's too good to just, leave on my computer. And a lot of times we do that. We think that other people aren't going through the same thing, when the truth is a lot of people are going through the exact same thing. They may not be in the same season as you, but there are people that are going to come through that season. And it's our job to share it, especially a speaker. If you're a speaker, you need to have a book.
Right. You used an interesting word there, situationship. Could you unpack that a little bit?
Okay. So situationships is my favorite chapter. It is the first chapter, actually. So situationship is a relationship it's a non-committed relationship. So you do everything as if you were engaged or married. I mean, you're cooking for each other, cleaning. All the family members know that you all are together, but nobody has made the actual commitment. That's what a situationship is.
Gotcha.
And you can get caught up in that very quickly because some people are just so happy to have somebody that they'll just settle for anything.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how language then impacts the way you view the events of your life, and going ahead and crafting your own vocabulary and your own language to more appropriately describe things is a really powerful thing to do as a speaker, and essentially change the nature of the conversation when you do that.
Definitely. One word that I made up is called hofidence. And people think you need a lot of confidence, but I think you need a lot of hofidence. Hofidence is wholeness and confidence together. So wholeness is, I know who I am. I trust who I am. I believe who I am, and I love who I am. Confidence is the definitions that I walk in. So you walk in the fact that you are anointed and appointed and special and crafty and alluring and God's best idea. And then you take all those definitions and you walk in confidence. You can't walk in confidence if you do not know who you are. So
it sounds like the idea of confidence is a lot of that stuff that is externally applied to you, whereas wholefidence integrates the internal definition and the stuff that you're able to apply to that in conjunction with the way others see you and the other way and the roles others have given to you.
Definitely. You have to live inside out.
Awesome. So, I mean, how does speaking support your book and your other initiatives then?
So speaking to me gets you in front of your true audience, because after you get off stage, the right people always come up to you. So it really helps you hone in on your message. It actually helps you hone in on what you do next. Instead of you coming up with what you think that people need, it actually gives you a clear understanding of what they want. So you're not making it up at the house anymore. Your actual client always comes up to you and says, hey, do you have a program on this? Or are you thinking about doing this? Or do you have a retreat? They come and tell you exactly what they're looking for. So you won't have to make up anything anymore. So speaking really helps you get in front of your right audience. And that's the best place to be.
That's awesome. So you can be talking to 100 people and 3 may come up to you afterwards and they're going to provide huge value about where you next should take your business.
Yes. And for the people that are shy, they'll usually write you online or email you. So be on the lookout for that to respond and engage with them, because it's not about getting the audience of 1 million people that never write you back or never engage with you. It's about those 10, 20 people that you shift their life and they go out and shift other people's lives. So that's the main focus.
Right. You know, it's one of those things where I found at trade shows and going to conventions, especially industry-specific ones as compared to mass market ones. For example, in the consumer electronics business, at CES, which is actually going on this year, in years past, I would go there, I would work a booth, I would have to talk to hundreds of people to get value out of it. But then I would go to an event like the NECC or EDUCAUSE events, which were focused on education markets. And you don't need to talk to 150 people to get value out of that show. You need to talk to 5 or 6 of the right people. And that's going to have the impact. That's going to make the business.
Yes. They make you better. Your audience will always make you better.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I found that's always really interesting too is that when I've had folks to that are just trying to take things off track in a talk and just being that person in the audience, once you say to them, you know, that's really interesting, I'd love to talk about that with you more, come see me after the talk and get one of my cards and we'll follow up. Those people never do.
Yeah, never. And it's funny because as many people as you think are going to, you know, give you the, oh my God, you're so amazing. And it doesn't happen like that. It doesn't, don't even look for it. And don't get stuck in the praises either. Never get stuck in the praises.
Right, right. So, I mean, what's your favorite type of audience to speak to then? Because you speak to a wide variety.
So I speak at colleges and universities to, of course, I would say the younger version of myself. I'm always trying to go and speak to the younger version of myself. Somebody that I think that I needed at that time. I've become that person. And I love women organizations, conferences, any type of women's retreats. That's my go-to. Because a lot of times women, we forget that we have permission to put ourselves first. We forget that all the time. And something that I stress to the audience always is you are only as great as you become. You are only as great as the books you read, the time that you take to invest in your heart and your soul, the time that you take to forgive yourself for things that you've held on to for a long time. And you have permission to actually take that time and put yourself first. It does not mean that you're being selfish. It does not mean that you're not considering your friends and your family, but you are only as great as you choose to become.
Put your own oxygen mask first before assisting others.
Definitely.
So you also have launched a podcast to, again, help further these initiatives called SoulKation. Another one of those awesome words. So,
yes.
So what is SoulKation about?
So I take your soul on a vacation every single Monday. And I love it. I did not think I would like podcasts. And I was like, oh God, another thing to do. But I listen to podcasts, all the time. I absolutely love them, especially yours.
Oh, thank you.
And I was like, why not? Why not do it? Last year was my what are you waiting on year? Who are you waiting for? Who are you waiting to come save you? Why not do it? So I started it. So it's basically about how to shape your own success and maintain your self-love. Because a lot of times we forget the maintenance part. You can become as successful as you want. You can be a 6-figure earner, a 7-figure earner, and you don't maintain that because you don't like yourself. You don't love yourself. You haven't accepted every part of yourself, even the things that aren't fair, and even the things that you didn't like to happen to you. It's very hard to sustain a successful business if you don't know who you are and you don't love who you are. So that's what we cover on the SoulKation podcast.
Awesome. So why did you start it then if you were so reluctant?
I knew that my audience listens to podcasts, and I just want to give them another channel to find me on that was more convenient for them. Because a lot of times I have a YouTube channel, so it's very hard for them to, of course, watch YouTube and drive or whatever. But podcasts, you can listen to it in the gym, you can listen to it on the road, whatever. It's just more convenient for people. Yeah.
Right. So you also said something. So what's the biggest surprise you've had come out of the podcast? Which element has been most unexpected for you?
The feedback and the women that said, girl, why did you just now start this? This is everything. And even them telling me that they wanted to hear more from me instead of the interviews. Of course, they enjoy the interviews too, but they were like, in season 2, can you do more episodes, by yourself? I was like, oh, okay. I thought I was bringing in the experts, honey, but they were like, we want to hear you too. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give you exactly what you asked for.
Yeah, that's what's really interesting about it. It can be, there's a certain intimacy to the medium that you don't see with a lot of others, where folks really want to engage with you as the host.
Definitely. And I'm grateful for that.
Awesome. You also said something really interesting there where you talked about last year was your year of what are you waiting on? Do you theme your different years?
I do. And every year I give up one thing that I love. So last year I gave up alcohol. No alcohol for 365 days. This year I'm doing no sugar. So I'm a little antsy right now, Bill.
Yeah.
I miss it so much, but I give up something I love. So yeah, basically it's about stop making the excuse and get closer to your solution. It's about just taking the risk and not knowing how it's going to turn out. And 9 times out of 9, it always turns out in your favor, because I honestly believe that God meets us in our action and in our consistency. He does not meet us in our questions and our doubts. So it's about just getting out there, not knowing how it's going to turn out, but knocking it out to your fullest ability. I think it was Jackie Robinson's wife that said, excellence should be your norm. Excellence should be your norm. It's that everything that you do, even if you're afraid, do it in excellence.
That's some powerful stuff. And I think what's really cool there too is you're talking about, it's not just giving something up or just cutting out a habit. You're doing it for a broader purpose, for a higher purpose of getting, like say, getting closer to yourself and pushing yourself and doing these things. And I think that's seems like it's a lot more sustainable or a lot more important than just giving up something because it's a bad habit.
Definitely. And it really teaches my body that it's not in control. You're not going to control me with alcohol. You're not going to control me with sugar. You're not controlling me with anything. So if you are looking to reshape something about yourself, I would say at least, audience, do 6 months of giving up something just so your body is aware of who the boss is.
And your body accepts that is a new norm and readjusts to it.
Definitely. Definitely. I gave up pork and beef in 2012, and I haven't eaten it since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is impressive.
Thank you.
So Logan, if folks want to know more about you and what you're up to, where should they go?
Definitely. Either LoganRenā.com, or I'll just share the book link with you. Never Ask for Permission Again is on Amazon, but I'll give you all that direct link. And since you are all speakers that listen to this podcast, I'm going to gift you with my Soul Formations list. And that's a list that's going to remind you of who you are, and the quickest way to get you to having more confidence on stage. It's just a list to remind you of who you are that you can read to yourself before you go out on stage, or I have it saved to the screensaver of my phone. So it's just a quick reminder of who you are. And it's the Soul Formations list. So I'm going to give you that all for free.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. And you'll also be able to find all of those links over at 2minutetalktips.com/Logan.
Yes.
So Logan, this has been fantastic. I love your energy and the sense of purpose you bring to all of this. And this has been great. Thank you very much for joining us this week.
Thank you so much for having me, Bill. I appreciate it.
I really like Logan's approach to growth and improvement. It's about continually challenging yourself to do better, while also acknowledging that we don't always need to get it right, and having a good time while doing it. And of course, inventing awesome new words. I normally end each episode by reminding you, don't get best, get better. I do that because the most important element of success is not in being the best. Being the best means everyone else has to be worse, and anyone else who wants to be the best has to try to take that away from you. It certainly doesn't encourage folks to help one another when everyone around you is trying to steal your success. But instead, we can all get a little bit better every day. And bit by bit, that adds up to something extraordinary. So check out Logan's site at LoganRenā.com, where you can learn more about Logan, her books, and her programs. You can also find that link and all the others over at 2minutetalktips.com/Logan. To get your free copy of the Soul Formations list, follow the links over at 2minutetalktips.com/Logan. Check out the SoulKation podcast in your favorite podcast app. That's SoulKation with a K. Mind your own social media for stories to tell at your next talk. And of course, as always, don't get best, get better. Thanks a lot. I'm Bill Monroe, and I'll talk to you next week.
Two-Minute Talk Tips is a proud production of the Currently Speaking Podcast Network.